Hi everyone. You've heard of the phrase, it's not about timing the market, but time in the market. While I couldn't agree more about having time in the market, I can't help but wonder, given that we have access to lots of information today, is it true that one cannot time the market? I'd like to challenge us to the idea that one can actually time an entry into the market based on historical data as a guide. Now, we cannot always be right, but at least we can maximize our chances of being right just by doing a bit of homework. I'll use the index tracking ETF called VTI as an example. For those of us who aren't familiar with VTI, just a few quick words here. VTI is the Vanguard Total Stock Market Index Fund ETF, which tracks the entire US stock market. And while it is a Vanguard ETF, you don't have to buy VTI through Vanguard. You could do it through any broker that has access to the US market. Now, VTI has 3,908 holdings at the time of this recording, and its market cap weighted, meaning it is more strongly influenced by the big guns such as Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Alphabet, the parent company of Google, and Facebook, among others. So when you buy VTI, you actually own a small stake in each of these companies. Now you might be thinking, the US market is now at its all-time high and every stock is overpriced. Well, that may be true. In my opinion, VTI is an ETF that will continue to see growth for the long term, as has been the case over the past 1 year, 5 years, and since inception. In fact, it bounced back from the COVID-19 crash in just half a year. I'd like to propose an idea that we can kind of time the market and buy the dip by entering into a position when there is more than 1% dip from the previous day. I know this can sound like a high and lofty idea, but I'm gonna provide some evidence in support of this bold hypothesis. Based on historical data over the past 6 months, we are able to spot small dips that arise roughly once every month, sometimes once every 2 months. I've done up this Excel sheet and color-coded the days on which we have seen at least a negative 1% from the previous day, as shown in red, and for those days with at least a positive 1% from its previous day, these days are now shown in green. For those of us who are sharp, you would notice that there may be days where the downward trend continued for a couple more days, after the day with the negative 1% growth. Now these dates have not been highlighted, but may represent additional days on which you might consider adding to your position if you've stored up some war chest for this purpose. You would also notice that the days I've highlighted may not necessarily be the lowest dip during that particular time period, which is in line with the fact that we can never predict when the lowest point may be. So based on my calculation, we see that there are usually around one buy opportunity per month, and these are color-coded with each month in a unique color. You'd also notice that on March 3rd and 4th, there were these 2 consecutive days on which the growth was greater than negative 1%. If we had bought into the ETF on those days, we would see a better return than if we were to invest consistently each month on the first day of the month, which I've used here as a control for comparison's sake. So on the left, if you had invested $100 on each of those days, you would have invested a total of $900 with almost 4.34 shares in total. As a control, if you had just invested on the first day of the month, you would have still invested the same amount of money but with a total of 4.28 shares. On the left, your average share price would have been $207 as opposed to $210, which is equivalent to 1.37% lower. And based on the last closing price on the 6th of August 2021 at $228.87, your profit would have been 10.34%, and that's just in less than half a year as opposed to 8.85% otherwise. Now, this is a 1.5% difference, which can be a lot of money if you're investing in the thousands and not just in the hundreds. Now, importantly, these projections are based on an index ETF with a long track record of growth. Before I end, I'd just like to say that this is not any financial advice by any means, but just an intellectual debate in some sense, and for sharing and discussion purposes only. If you disagree, drop a comment and I'll be more than happy to learn from your thoughts. Now, once again, thank you for watching. I hope you get something out of this. Take care and see you next time.